So how about it? 1 week in the books. Hard to believe it's been a week since Donald J. Trump and the Republicans completed what I'd call an absolute political ass kicking of Kamala Harris and the Democrats. The Republicans will retain control of all levels of federal government come January 20, 2025, when the real fun will get underway with Inauguration Day in Washington, D.C., and that's when the Republicans will roll up their sleeves and get to work. Now, it's been a fascinating week for Donald J. Trump and his staff. They're compiling their cabinet, and he's got several appointees thus far that would make up somewhat or constitute what you call maybe a dream team, never to be confused with the original in 92. For my two shekels, the greatest basketball team ever assembled, arguably the greatest team in sports history. I divert to pay homage to the original Dream Team, but I want to stay on the subject at hand, and that's talking about one of those appointees, one of those all-stars into Trump's cabinet, Tom Homan. You may want to call him an oldie, but a goodie. He's 63 years young. He has served in law enforcement throughout a distinguished career in his whole adult life. Began early on as a law enforcement police officer in New York State, worked his way through branches of government, eventually would serve as the director of ICE under Obama and Trump. He retired in 2019, but he's been a staunch supporter, an ally of Trump, and a guy who has certainly not been pleased with seeing the border deteriorate under the watch, and under the wistful eye of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And he knows what's gone on, all the problems, right? With the illegals coming into the country, unvetted illegals, criminals. Take a look at the numbers. Fentanyl has become a killer in the United States because it gets through the southern border just like the unvetted criminals. Human trafficking. There you see again the numbers. And there's a pile of work to be done now by the border czar, officially appointed by Trump yesterday. In a Truth media post, Trump outlined his appointment of Homan and wished him a congratulations. And since I was always that kid who liked to read out loud in school, let me read this one out loud to you, my fine feathered friends. I am pleased to announce that former ICE director and stalwart on border control, Tom Homan, will be joining the Trump administration in charge of our nation's borders. In quotes, the border czar, including but not limited to the southern border, the northern border, all maritime and aviation security. I've known Tom for a long time. And there is nobody better at policing and controlling our borders. Likewise, Tom Homan will be in charge of all deportation of illegal aliens back to their country of origin. Congratulations to Tom. I have no doubt he will do a fantastic and long awaited for job. Again, that's the president-elect, the 47th to be president of the United States, Donald Trump, on his platform Truth Social. That's another story for another day. You know, that one I deter again, but divert. But I just have to get this out there. I was thinking about this, and that could be a good little piece to do here on Red Dot Media, is the fact that that story of Trump launching his own social media platform got up and running and is profitable, so he can use it as a vehicle to win the election. Fascinating, right? Keep on using that, but there's so much going on right now in the world of Trump, and there's so many things you can reflect back upon in the last 4 years that have led to this moment that you can analyze. You can go on forever. That's the period in time we're in American history, at a crossroads, and there's no other time I'd like to be alive doing this as an American than right now. I'll abuse it one more time. Fascinating. I'm sorry, I'll stop using it. But Tom Homan, he will now be in charge of getting the border together and protecting us Americans. And if you want to come into the U.S., you have to do so legally. That's it. If you don't qualify, you can't come in. If you're a criminal, you got to stay in the country you're in. That's it. We've got to do this lawfully in an organized, safe manner. So law-abiding, tax-paying citizens are vested in, and they're able to live safely in a country that has safe borders. And you don't have to have the stories like Lake and Riley, may she rest in peace, and the other innocent folks who were killed by these criminals who just basically waltzed in. Now, the left, you can bet they've taken on Tom Homan before. He has experience. And yesterday on Fox and Friends, I thought there was a great interview with him. And he gave a great answer because the host, I'm paraphrasing it, she kind of posed the question as, the biggest pain in the butt you're going to have is the left. They could be your biggest obstacle in being a thorn in your side in the work that you need to do on all the fronts I mentioned. And he addressed it in his own way. You talk about a guy who's outspoken and really doesn't give a you-know-what about people and what they think, but when you have a job at hand, that's Tom Homan. Take a look and listen for yourself.
Frankly, I don't care what people think about me, especially on the left. Again, when you have a historic crisis, a crisis this big, here's what they need to know. When you have a crisis this big that overwhelms the Border Patrol, where the majority of Border Patrol are no longer on patrol, they're making sandwiches, they're changing diapers, they're making baby formula, they're making hospital runs, they're making airport runs. When you take most of Border Patrol agents off the border to deal with humanitarian crisis, that's when the fentanyl comes across to kill 250,000 Americans. That's when the sex trafficking has increased 600%. That's when non-suspected terrorists has crossed this country. They've had a record of people on terrorist watch list that have been arrested at the southern border. That's why you have over 2 million gotaways. How many of them came from a country sponsoring terror? So I don't care what anybody's opinion is on illegal immigration. When you create a crisis this big, all these other bad things happen. That's why you have to secure the border. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. Border security is national security.
And you know what I get after watching Tom Homan there with Fox and Friends? Tom Homan don't play. And that's the guy you want as the border czar of the United States. Not the disaster we had. Right? What was it that she was going to look for, Kamala? The root causes to all the problems at the border never even went until the last few weeks of the election when she can do that. And that's take a PR photo BSing with a couple of border guards in front of the wall. Now, I had a chance to go to the southern border. 5-6 weeks ago, I went to Jacumba in California. And it was fascinating to see that border wall. There you see yours truly. That border wall was actually built by Obama and reinforced by Trump's administration. And talk about deportation, a deportation czar of illegals. Well, Obama's not so innocent in that category either, right? But the focus now will be on cleaning up the border. And Homan, he's sparred with the left, and back in 2019, it was the likes of AOC. This clip, I remember it originally. Hard to believe it was 5 years ago, but it has resurfaced and gone viral. When she, AOC, the human vomit, as I call her, tried to press Homan in Congress at hearings as the author of a memo on family separation and zero tolerance in immigration and in the system. And what did Homan do? Rightfully schooled AOC. Take a look and listen for yourself.
It says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to deportation and family separation, Homan set the record straight on 60 Minutes a couple weeks back. Here's a clip I'll share with you.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
And again, this guy is all business. He's going to take on all comers, and he's going to focus on cementing his place in Trump's cabinet and in Trump's legacy in American history, I think, as being the guy who cleaned up the border. You know, like the saying was during the election, Kamala made the mess, Trump will fix it. Trump's handing over that fix to Homan. Kamala and Sleepy Joe messed up the border. Trump gave the task to Homan. Homan fixed it. So I am thrilled with the appointment of Tom Homan. There's absolutely no one better right now in this country of 300 million plus people, I believe, to be border czar for Donald J. Trump to help make America great again.